It's about to get mad. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video. So today I'm giving you my review of arguably the biggest movie of the year, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And before I give you guys my thoughts, I want to say there will be zero spoilers in this video, so do not worry. I won't be getting into tonight. I will have a spoiler review later this week. But before I give you guys my thoughts, make sure to hit that like button. Comment down below your thoughts or your expectations on the movie if you've already seen it. And make sure to subscribe to that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future reviews like this one, especially for these big Marvel movies. So Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, like I mentioned, huge expectations for this movie. I think we can all agree the hype going into this movie rivals the hype for some of these other big MCU movies like Endgame, even No Way Home, because again, it's one we've been theorizing at for so long. So having finally seen the movie, did it live up to the hype? Honestly, I still am processing the movie. I need to give it another watch. I have a lot of pros, but I also have quite a few cons as well, and I'm just gonna tackle both these. I wanna start by highlighting the absolute MVP of this movie, and that is Sam Raimi, the director. He's back after years of a hiatus from directing, and I think that he absolutely kills it here. Sam Raimi, I feel, is responsible for why this movie feels so unique compared to other MCU movies because his visual flair is there. There's certain shots where you're just like, wow, this is in the MCU. Like the way that he does his quick zooms in onto characters. And there's one in particular where a certain character is getting attacked by these demon things, and it looks like they're holding the camera and like shaking it, and that was just such a cool creative decision that, again, we don't really see too much in MCU movies because it feels like from a stylistic standpoint, the majority of these MCU movies follow the same template, and this one definitely breaks free from that, which I was very happy to see. This is very much a darker turn for the MCU, and if you guys know me, which I'm very outspoken about how I feel about the MCU, and I've called them out on their BS, you know, saying this is gonna be the most brutal turn for the MCU. This actually lives up to that name though. I can safely and comfortably say this is the darkest and the most unsettling, creepy, brutal, any of those adjectives. That is what Multiverse of Madness is, because there are moments where like I kind of cringed and felt just very uneasy. The way it creates an eerie presence is so well done. So credit to Sam Raimi and the whole cast and crew for putting that together. But this movie, again, it stands out in a crowd of Marvel films, and that's what you want in an era where we're getting, you know, 4 to 5 Marvel films a year. This is something that I'm really happy to see. Sam Raimi needs to come back and direct more. But I also wanted to highlight the fact that this is probably the best we've seen Doctor Strange in the MCU. We all know Benedict Cumberbatch is a veteran in the MCU at this point, and he crushes it here. There's really cool moments where you see him doing everyday tasks as Doctor Strange. He's definitely a more matured Strange than we've seen from the very first time we saw him in the MCU, so it's fitting to see how far he's come in his MCU journey so far. Wanda Maximoff is also in this movie, as we all know, and this is going to be where the hot takes start to come in, because a lot of people love WandaVision, and there's this whole, you know, army or battalion of Wanda stans online. I think that what she does in this movie is indefensible, and I think this movie villainizes her in a way, and that's honestly like a proper turn for her character at this point in time, I think. But what's going to be interesting to see is how many people just defend her despite some of the indefensible and just atrocious acts that she partakes in this movie. In many ways, it feels like Captain America's Civil War for Phase 4 of the MCU, because in Civil War, you got Iron Man and Cap facing off against each other. This is almost like Strange v. Wanda, and it pits the heroes against each other. It effectively creates conflict in the MCU. And because of that, I think it's going to be a movie that's going to spark a lot of heated discussions. And that's kind of the sign of a movie that's going to stand the test of time, probably, is that you're wanting to talk about it a lot. There are some grotesque moments too, I won't say what, but like moments that might have scarred me if I was 4 years old when I watched it. So kind of tread lightly when it comes to that, because again, I know in the past with MCU projects, people will say, oh, this is so brutal and dark, but this one actually is. And I think this is a step in a new direction for the MCU, especially with heroes like Blade around the corner. They might actually be willing to dive into the more brutal side of the MCU, something that has been kind of untapped lately, and I think the potential is really high for that. And the movie introduces these really cool magical elements too that were just fascinating to see. A new mystical side of the MCU we haven't really explored, kind of delving further into the Darkhold and the lore of sorcerers in the MCU. That was some of my favorite content this movie provided, and all of that was really well done. However, this is far from a perfect movie, and I do have my fair share of issues. Some I can talk about now, some I have to save for my spoiler review, but I want to say this movie starts fast out of the gate and does not slow down. And while that could be positive, because a lot of us sit here and say, oh, 3-hour movies aren't necessary, they're too long and they drag. That's a fact. But I think this movie could have used 20, 30 more minutes to kind of slow down, because it feels like you never have a moment to breathe in this movie, and it rushes through some really critical emotional moments, which was kind of upsetting, honestly, guys. It was, because I love, being able to marinate in those emotional moments that really make you feel for characters when pivotal moments roll around in like the third act of a movie. It's lightning fast from beginning to end. I almost felt like the movie needed more explaining on the actual lore and certain mythology and just rules within the movie. Some ideas weren't fully fleshed out and they could have been more developed, and that's just unfortunate. Like, the opening of the movie throws you right in the middle of a scenario and you barely have time to breathe. Now, I know we already know these characters from prior iterations in the MCU, but I just wish that we got more time. And I'm not saying every movie needs to be 2.5 to 3 hours long, but I feel like in a movie called Multiverse of Madness that is so grand in scale, you definitely could have fleshed it out a little bit more. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for me to talk about, certain cameos. And we all know the Illuminati's in this movie, that's confirmed from the trailer. And I will say there are moments, I will not spoil, there are moments where I think people will go pretty crazy, but I also want to let you know to temper your expectations. Don't go in expecting every Marvel character in existence to show up in this movie, because you will inevitably leave the theater disappointed. I just want to let you guys know to temper your expectations. Go into this movie expecting it to be a Doctor Strange sequel that focuses a lot on Wanda, introduces America Chavez, who is a really cool introduction to the MCU. You really do feel for her character in a few scenes. So they did a good job of fleshing her out. And you've also got some Wong in here. I think justice for Wong, we need to hashtag that in the comments down below, because I feel like that man still has not gotten his full time to shine in this franchise. Takes a little bit of a back seat in this movie, but he still has an important role overall. I just wish we got a little more Wong, honestly. Now, my major flaw with this movie, I actually can't talk about, which is a big bummer, so stay tuned for my spoiler review. But I think some of you guys might be onto it if you've seen the movie when you're watching this review. There is a glaring issue that enraged me, actually, and I think that a lot of people might share, similar issues with it. So yeah, that's something we'll have to talk about at a later time. I think, also the movie was a little mismarketed because, originally it's like, oh, it's going to be a horror film. And then it's like, you know what, actually, we're going to rely on this whole Illuminati plot. And there's just a lot of different things going on in the marketing to kind of mislead us, which could be for the better. But going into this movie with no expectations, I think is the best way to do it, because at the end of the day, it is an MCU film. So it's entertaining. There's great moments. There's cheer moments where you're going to get hype with your friends in the theater. But it is not a great MCU movie in my opinion. Now, I need to rewatch it as I'm still processing it. I just watched it last night, and there is a ton to soak in. So I feel like this is a movie that rewatching is going to be super beneficial for, because you're going to catch things you missed and pick up on all those little details and kind of know what to expect. So I feel like going into this movie for a second time, I will enjoy it a lot more. But it's a visually gorgeous film. Sam Raimi directs the hell out of it. I want to really emphasize that he is the MVP here and he's back. And he actually came out on stage at the premiere and was just ecstatic to be there. So you love to see the guy with all that energy. This is the best we've seen Elizabeth Olsen in the MCU from a performance standpoint. I mean, she was damn great. She made me really hate her character, so it was very well written by Michael Waldron. All around, I think it's a well-crafted movie that has the best intentions, but at the end of the day, it's a little too messy and pretty rushed through in my eyes. I think they could have fleshed it out a little bit more. And there are glaring issues that I will get into in the spoiler talk that I cannot talk about now. But I do think Multiverse of Madness is a middle to middle/upper tier MCU movie. It's not in my top 10 favorite MCU movies. I will have a ranking coming soon. You guys can stay tuned for that. But Multiverse of Madness was a solid time. It's a good MCU movie. I don't think it's great. I could change my mind on a rewatch, so stay tuned for our upcoming videos. But Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is here, and I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments down below. What are your expectations or thoughts if you have not seen it? Again, temper your expectations, guys. Do not expect this to be an Avengers Endgame level movie when it comes to all of these characters appearing. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to hit that like button, comment down below again, expectations and thoughts on the movie, and make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future Multiverse of Madness content, because I have a lot to say. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.